going on, everybody? It's DK with RPM Gaming, where we talk about retro, PC, and mobile gaming. Hope everyone's doing well out there today. We're going to be doing a little unboxing and review of the Manba One controller by Manba. So, let's get started. Got some nice packaging from Manba with a wolf symbol on it, which looks a lot like Gamesur's rooster symbol, only with a wolf instead. In the box, we've got our charging dock, which is similar to the 8-bit Do one. Looks like it even has a place on the bottom for the USB dongle. But it doesn't look like there's a place to plug it in. I guess you can only store it there. Be a whole lot cooler if it did, though. Next up, of course, is the controller. Let's get this out of the package and see what it's like. Looks like we got 4 mapping buttons on the back, an Xbox-style D-pad, nice smooth thumbsticks, triggers, and nice buttons. And we've got our USB dongle in here. Has a little bit of a pattern on both sides, but it's not a grippy texture. And underneath, looks like we've got a standard USB-A to USB-C charging cable, which will plug into the dock or the controller directly. And looks like we've got a set of taller thumbsticks. These look like they're about a 1/4 inch taller than the ones that are on there now. And we've got the customer service paper with some QR codes on it, and the instruction manual with some more QR codes. And lastly, a little screen protector for that screen on the controller. Alright, so at this point I've been using the controller for a couple of weeks now. I had their little screen protector on there, but I didn't really like it, so I took it off. Now the screen looks kind of terrible in the light, but it's not so bad once you turn it on. These thumbsticks are Hall effect sticks, and they have a really nice smooth travel to them, just about like the G8. There's also a really nice range of motion to them as well. The D-pad looks like an Xbox style controller, but it's a micro switch. As well as the face buttons, those are micro switch too. You can kind of hear the click to them. The shoulder buttons have a nice feel to them and also click down towards the outer edge. The triggers are Hall effect triggers as well. They have about the same amount of travel as the Galileo G8 with the same grippy texture on them. Moving around to the back of the controller, we've got our 4 programmable back buttons. And then up top here, we've got our trigger locks, turning these from analog to digital type triggers. And once the locks are engaged, you can see they do have a little bit of a click to them. And lastly, we've got our on-off switch on the back. You can see our RGB lighting there on the side of the controller. And this thing has an 1800 milliamp battery in it, as well as 6-axis motion control. And after the initial startup of the controller, every time you turn it on, it'll automatically try to reconnect to whatever you had it paired to last. So just hold down the home button for 3 seconds, and then you're able to get to the menu. Use the D-pad, thumbsticks, back, home, and start button to navigate. Under the mode selection is where you'll pick which device you want to connect to. And so far, a Switch is the only one that has a Bluetooth option. Under the settings section is where you can set up your configurations for your different control schemes, as well as your individual buttons. This is where you'll also be able to program those back buttons. Looks like you can set them up for a single command or multiple inputs. You can also turn on turbo in this section as well for individual buttons. You can set up your curve and dead zones for your thumbsticks, as well as your triggers in this section also. And the last section in here is vibration strength. I think I'll turn mine all the way up. Let's see what those rumble motors can do. Next, moving down to the display option, this is where you can adjust the brightness of your controller screen. Also, you can cycle through all the colors of the rainbow in the LED section. You can also adjust the mode from always on to breathing, or just turn it off completely. Under the more section is where we have our language, calibration, and button testing options. For the calibration, just select what you'd like to calibrate and then follow the on-screen prompts. And I will say I do like this option of being able to do it all on the controller instead of having to use an app or something like that. As far as the gyro goes, I was never able to get the gyro to work on this controller, on Steam, on Switch, on anything really. Which that's not really a deal breaker for me because I don't really use gyro, but it may be for some people. The Manba One has a magnetic faceplate similar to the Gamester G8 controllers. And while they don't have any accessory faceplates as of yet, this is still a handy feature to have, especially for keeping the controller clean. There's also a white version of this controller with a see-through faceplate as well. Is it just me, or does this thing remind you of Darth Vader without the faceplate on? Looks kind of cool, actually. I could be mistaken, but I think those are part of the rumble motors right there in the bottom corners of the controller. The face buttons and D-pad are not interchangeable, but the thumbsticks are, and you don't have to take the cover off to change them. You can just pop them off and pop the other ones right back on. The extra set that they sent with them are quite a bit taller than the original ones that were on there, as you can see here. Both sets of the thumbsticks have a concave top and a nice quality feel to them. The Manba One charging dock is very similar to the 8-bit DOE dock. It's just missing that plug-in inside for the USB dongle. I really wish it had one of those. I really like that feature on the 8-bit DOE dock. The charging cable that the Manba dock comes with is a black one. I'm just using one I already have set up. Here's the Manba One side by side by the 8-bit DOE controller. They have similar designs, but the Manba One is just slightly larger. As far as the thumbsticks, the 8-bit DOEs seem a little stiffer, but the Manbas have a lot smoother travel to them in my opinion. I do like the 8-bit DOE D-pad a lot better than the Manba D-pad, but it's still not a deal breaker on the Manba for me. The triggers on the 8-bit DOE are a little stiffer than on the Manba, which I personally like, but you can't beat that customization factor on the Manba triggers. When pairing to iOS, the controller will show up under the Bluetooth settings as an Xbox controller. So just make your selection and then you're off to the races. Now for that world-famous Contra Test patented by Retro Game Core. Which, if you don't know what that is, that's where you press down on the D-pad and then just rock it back and forth a little bit. And you want a little movement out of your character because that makes it easier to hit the diagonals. But man, with this D-pad, I don't think it's going to work very well. It's kind of stiff and it just doesn't pivot like I want it to. As you can see right here, nope, couldn't hit the diagonal in time. So that's a failure for me on the Contra Test with this D-pad. When pairing the controller with the Switch, I use the Bluetooth option. And after following the on-screen prompts, it paired fairly quickly. Now let's test this D-pad out on a fighting game. A little Street Fighter action. Now granted, I'm not that great at Street Fighter, especially with this type of D-pad, but it seemed to me like it went a little bit better than the Contra Test. I could hit the special moves decently with it, but I still ended up losing. I don't know if it's the style of the D-pad with the sharp edges or the micro switch connection, but either way, I'm not a fan of it. Now when using the D-pad on something like a platformer like Mario 3 here, I didn't have any problems with it. But something like a fighting game or the Contra Test where you got to hit all those diagonals and all that, it's not good for me. Yep, and just in case some of y'all was wondering, I'm an old Mario ham from way back. Mario 2 and 3, now that's where it's at. Once the Manba One's paired to the Switch, you can use it to put it to sleep as well as wake it back up using the home button. When pairing to PC or Steam Deck, you have to use the dongle that came with the controller, since there's no Bluetooth option under those selections. Once you have the dongle connected, the controller will pair within a matter of seconds. And like I said before, using this D-pad for a platformer, something like Animal Well or Mario or something like that, I had no problems out of it. It works great for that. It's just those fighting games and games where you got to hit those diagonals. Overall, though, I really like it. I just wish the screen had a better coating on it and the gyro issue was fixed. Alright everyone, so that was our review and unboxing of the Manba One controller. Been using it for a few weeks now. No major complaints about it. I wish the screen had been a touch screen, but overall I think it's a pretty good controller. Let me know what you guys think about it, any questions you might have about it. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and check out the other videos, and we'll see you next time on RPM Gaming.